Can you imagine? This HOA president breaks into a black woman's garage, parks his BMW like he owns the place, then discovers she has the power to trap his car inside and turn the entire neighborhood against him in one devastating night that destroys his reign of terror forever? This is the same man who had previously fined her $200 for leaving Christmas lights up while she was caring for her hospitalized father, showing just how ruthlessly he wielded his HOA power before she finally trapped his car and exposed him to the entire neighborhood. If you love interesting stories like this that expose the truth, please give this video a thumbs up and tell us in the comments section where in the world you are watching this video, and also do well to smash that subscribe button. Picture this. You've crawled through Miami traffic for nearly an hour. Your head's pounding from back-to-back meetings. All you want is to pull into your garage, kick off your shoes, and breathe in the comfort of your own home. That's the scene for Emma Williams, a project manager who'd worked a 12-hour day. She couldn't wait to collapse on her living room couch. But the second she hit the garage opener and the door creaked up, her evening spun into chaos. Because sitting inside her garage, her space attached to her house, was a spotless black BMW, angled like it owned the spot. Emma froze, gripping her steering wheel. Was it a delivery mix-up? An emergency? But no one had texted, no one had called, and no one should have had access to her locked garage. She killed the engine of her red Honda and climbed out, scanning the BMW like it might offer answers. Florida plates, luxury trim, and a vanity tag that read HOA King. Her stomach twisted. Everyone on Palm Grove Lane knew that plate. The car belonged to Richard Sterling, the sharp-tongued, rule-obsessed man who ran their HOA meetings like his personal kingdom. "You've got to be kidding me," Emma muttered. She yanked open the door connecting the garage to her house, half expecting Richard to be waiting inside. Instead, silence. The smell of motor oil and storage boxes filled the air, reminding her this was her sanctuary, her workshop, her domain. The thought of his BMW planted in the middle of it felt like a violation. Moments later, a voice floated up from the driveway. "Oh, Emma, you're home sooner than I thought." Richard strolled up in a pressed white shirt, clutching a manila folder. He looked ready for another HOA hearing, except now he was the one trespassing. "Richard," Emma said, her voice low and controlled, "what is your car doing in my garage?" He tilted his head without a hint of shame. "I just needed the space for a few minutes. The landscapers are blocking my driveway, and I couldn't be late for a board call." "You don't mind, do you?" Emma let out a short laugh, not amused. "You parked inside my garage. Not my driveway. My garage. Do you understand how insane that sounds?" Richard waved his hand like brushing away a leaf. "Don't exaggerate. It's just for a moment. I knew you wouldn't care. You're always reasonable at the meetings." But Emma had heard too many stories. Richard writing up families for leaving trash cans out 2 hours late, fining people for Christmas lights past New Year's, berating teenagers for playing basketball. "Reasonable?" Emma repeated. "Richard, this isn't about being reasonable. You broke into my garage and parked like it's a public lot. That's trespassing." His smile faltered, then snapped back. "Now let's not use ugly words. We're neighbors. The HOA encourages sharing resources. My garage isn't a community resource." Emma stepped closer, her voice firm. "It's my property. You crossed the line." For the first time, Richard's eyes darted toward the BMW. But instead of apologizing, he straightened his shoulders. "Emma, you're making a big deal out of nothing. I'll move the car in a minute. Let's not create drama." That was Richard's way. Create the drama, then blame others for reacting. Emma pulled her phone from her pocket, tapped the garage app, and with one calm press, the heavy door began sliding down. The grinding motor echoed like a verdict. Richard's head whipped around. "Wait! What are you doing?" Emma didn't break eye contact as the door sealed his BMW inside. "I'm making sure your few minutes stay right where they belong. Off my property." His jaw dropped. "You can't do that." "Watch me," she said, slipping the phone back into her pocket. The garage door thudded shut, leaving Richard gaping in the driveway. For the first time since she'd known him, he didn't have a quick answer. Richard stood frozen, staring at the garage door like he couldn't believe what happened. Then his voice shot up, carrying across the manicured lawns of Palm Grove Lane. "Emma Williams, open that door right now. My car is in there." Emma leaned against her Honda, arms crossed. "Your car is in there because you put it there. I didn't invite it, and I didn't invite you." Richard's cheeks flushed red. "You don't understand. My driveway is blocked. I didn't have time to wait. I had a board call. Do you know how important that is? More important than respecting someone's property?" Emma tilted her head. The exchange was loud enough to draw neighbors out. Across the street, Maria Santos stepped onto her porch, shading her eyes with her hand. "Richard, what's going on?" Maria called. Richard waved frantically. "Maria! She's got my car trapped in her garage. Can you believe this?" Maria leaned on her railing, unimpressed. What was it doing in there to begin with? Richard's mouth opened, then closed. He forced a laugh. "I just needed a spot for a moment. You know how tight parking gets." Maria's eyebrows shot up. "Parking? Richard, that's her garage, not a shopping mall lot." More neighbors drifted out, sensing drama worth watching. The Johnsons from the corner, a young couple with twins from next door. Even Carlos Martinez, who rarely left his workshop. Their eyes bounced between Emma standing steady and Richard, whose hands flailed like he was trying to stitch together an excuse. "Everyone, let's not blow this out of proportion." Richard tried to recover. "I've always looked out for this neighborhood. You all know that. I make sure things stay orderly. This," he jabbed a finger at Emma, "is unnecessary hostility." Emma stepped closer, lowering her voice so only nearby neighbors could hear. "Hostility is forcing yourself into someone else's home and acting like it's your right. Don't spin this back on me." Her measured tone made Richard falter. He turned back to the growing audience, his voice pitching louder. "This is harassment. She's harassing me." Maria barked a short laugh. "Harassment? Richard, you're the one who broke into her garage." Carlos crossed his arms, a grease-stained rag hanging from his pocket. "I'd like to know how you even got inside. That garage has a keypad, doesn't it?" Emma nodded. "Yes, it does." Every head turned toward Richard. He flushed again, looking anywhere but at the crowd. "I might have seen her type it in once, or maybe it was written down somewhere. That's not the point." But it was the point, and everyone knew it. Gasps rippled through the group. "So not only did you trespass," Emma said, "but you admitted to using a code you had no right to know. Richard, do you realize what kind of line you crossed?" The tension thickened. Richard, once the king of the HOA, was standing on the defensive for the first time anyone could remember. He tried to pivot. "You're making a spectacle. This is exactly the chaos I've always tried to prevent in our neighborhood. You should have thought of that before you planted yourself in my space," Emma replied evenly. "The garage stays closed until I decide otherwise." Neighbors shifted, some murmuring agreement. Richard looked around for support, but the usual nods were gone. Instead, he saw raised eyebrows, folded arms, and smirks. "You can't do this." His voice cracked slightly. "You can't lock me out of my own vehicle." Emma spoke clearly, her voice carrying over the driveway. "Richard, I didn't lock you out. You did that the moment you thought my property was yours to use." Richard's face tightened into a hard line. He paced in a short circle, building his case. Then he wheeled around, pointing at Emma with authority. "You have no idea who you're messing with. I've given this neighborhood structure. Without me, this block would be chaos." "No one asked you to play sheriff," Emma replied, her voice steady. "You want to run the HOA? Fine. But this isn't your HOA playground. This is my home." Maria spoke up again, her voice sharp. "Richard, you can't lecture us about rules when you just broke the biggest one. Respect your neighbor's property." More chuckles floated up from the group. Richard's head whipped toward them, his expression panicked. "You think this is funny? You're siding with her?" Carlos stepped forward. "It's not about sides. It's about common sense. You don't steal someone's code and waltz into their garage." The word steal hit Richard like a slap. "I didn't steal anything. I borrowed an opportunity." The laughter was louder this time. Neighbors glanced at each other with looks that said what they'd been thinking for years. Finally, someone was standing up to him. "You broke into my garage and left your car inside," Emma said firmly. "If anything, you're lucky I didn't call the police the moment I saw it." Richard opened his mouth, but no words came. For once, he didn't have a rulebook quote to throw back. That's when Emma pulled out her phone again, waving it slightly. "This garage opener isn't just a button, Richard. It's a reminder that I don't need to shout or threaten to be heard. All I have to do is stand my ground. Something you've never allowed anyone else on this street to do." The point landed hard. Even Richard's shoulders slumped for a moment. But his pride, stubborn as steel, flared again. "This is ridiculous. You're humiliating me in front of everyone." "No, Richard." Emma's voice softened but kept its edge. "You're humiliating yourself. All I did was close a door." The wail of sirens cut through the evening air. Every head turned as red and blue lights flashed against windows. A Miami police cruiser rolled down Palm Grove Lane, stopping in front of Emma's house. Two officers stepped out. Officer Jackson, tall with a calm presence, and Officer Rodriguez, younger but alert. "Evening, folks," Officer Jackson said. "Got a call about a vehicle dispute." Richard jumped in before anyone could speak. "Yes, thank God you're here. This woman has locked my car in her garage and refuses to release it. That's theft." The officers exchanged a glance. Officer Rodriguez pulled out a notepad. "Okay, sir, let's slow down. How exactly did your car end up inside her garage?" Richard hesitated. "I parked it there temporarily. My driveway was blocked." "Without permission," Emma added calmly. "I came home and found his BMW where my car belongs. When I confronted him, he acted like it was no big deal." Officer Jackson rubbed his jaw. "Sir, is that true? Did you enter her garage without permission?" Richard stiffened. "It's not as bad as she's making it sound. We're neighbors. I'm the HOA president. I've always looked out for this community." Maria called out. "Looked out for yourself, you mean?" The officers glanced at the crowd, realizing this was bigger than a simple dispute. "Sir," Officer Rodriguez said, "just to be clear, did Ms. Williams give you permission to use her garage?" Richard's silence was answer enough. "No," Emma said firmly. "And he's been running this HOA like a dictatorship for years. This just happens to be the line he finally crossed." Carlos stepped forward. "She's right. He fines us for things that don't exist in the bylaws. He once wrote me up for working on my car in my own driveway." More neighbors chimed in with their stories. The officers' faces tightened as they heard testimony after testimony. Officer Jackson stepped closer to Richard. "Sir, entering another person's property without permission is trespassing. Using their garage code is unauthorized entry. This could escalate beyond a neighborhood dispute. Richard's face went pale. Trespassing? No, it wasn't like that. Officer Rodriguez looked at Emma. Ma'am, do you want to press charges? The air went still. Richard's eyes went wide with panic. Charges? Emma, we're neighbors. You can't be serious. Emma studied him for a long moment. She thought about the years of fines, the letters, the constant feeling of being watched in her own neighborhood. I haven't decided yet, she said finally. But I'm not lifting that garage door until he admits what he did. Right here, in front of everyone. Richard's mouth opened in protest, but the words caught. He looked at the officers, hoping they'd intervene. It might be in your best interest, sir, Officer Jackson said quietly. The silence stretched painfully. Finally, Richard whispered, I'm sorry. It was barely audible. Louder, Emma said firmly. For everyone to hear. Richard's eyes burned, but he forced the words out. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have parked in your garage. I shouldn't have used your code. The crowd erupted in applause. Not because they admired his apology, but because they'd finally seen the king of the HOA bow his head. Emma pulled out her phone and opened the garage door. Richard rushed to his BMW, his movements frantic. But as he gripped the door handle, Maria called out, Wait, we need to talk about what this means for all of us. A chorus of agreement rose. She's right, Carlos added. If we let him drive off, he'll be back to his old ways tomorrow. The neighbors looked at each other, years of frustration finally finding a voice. Special election, someone shouted from the back. We need new leadership. The idea spread like wildfire through the group. Richard's face drained of color as he watched his empire crumble in real time. He slid into his BMW without another word, backed out slowly as neighbors parted to let him pass, and drove away into the night. The crowd stayed, buzzing with energy, already planning change. For the first time in years, Palm Grove Lane felt like a real community. Emma stood in the middle of it all, exhausted but strangely light. She'd faced down the neighborhood bully with nothing but a garage door and the courage to say enough. Sometimes that's all it takes. One person standing firm, saying no more, and letting the truth speak louder than someone's pride. The lesson was simple. Boundaries matter, respect matters, and when someone crosses those lines, sometimes all you need is the courage to close the door.